Now I have the pleasure to invite Laura Hoijer, who is Research Director at the Ministry of the Environment in Finland. The floor is yours.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to everybody. And I'm very delighted to talk in a conference that brings together policymakers, scientists and innovators from the Baltic Sea region and from the EU Commission. Because as I work as a research director at the ministry, I could say actually that the main aim of my work is to bring the science and policy closer to each other. And actually, I would see that the R&D activity is the backbone of our ministry, and actually that is the title of our R&D strategy. Well, the aim of if I tell something about the ministry's R&D activity, the aim is to generate the knowledge and competencies required for administrative planning and steering and decision making. I would say that Finland's environmental policy has achieved many excellent results also in the case of the Baltic Sea. But I think, however, that the environmental problems we are facing today are even more complex than they were in the past, and thus they require very new kind of solutions. And I would say that more and more the formulation of environmental policy, that the role of very versatile research data has become even more important. And even greater emphasis should be placed on basing decision-making on evidence, as we have heard from the previous talkers this morning. But then I want to emphasize one thing, thinking our administrative sector, that the decisions affecting the environment, as the Baltic Sea, are also very widely being taken in other administrative sectors, besides the Ministry of the Environment. So the broad-based national and international cooperation is of great importance. And actually I could continue now with this cooperation theme. Because I think, of course, we all know that the cooperation in this Baltic Sea work is of great importance. The problems our fragile sea is facing, like eutrophication, of course it does not recognize the borders of the different countries. But then I also want to emphasize one very important cooperation, thinking of the seminar of today, is the cooperation between HELCOM and BONUS. I think this kind of cooperation actually is very unique in EU, and it does offer a lot of potential. So I think this cooperation can work to ensure that the most desirable contribution from BONUS, as we know it's the macro-regional research governance framework of the Baltic Sea region, and as a response mechanism to the knowledge needs arising in the course of implementing the HELCOM Baltic Sea Action Plan. And of course the EU Marine Strategic Framework Directive, as well as other key sustainability policies, such as the Maritime doctrine of the Russian Federation by 2020, also create a demand for a new knowledge that can be met with the BONUS research. So I'm really looking forward to this cooperation, and it has a lot of potential. As we all well know, during the past century, the pressures on the seas and the ecosystem services they provide have grown at an alarming rate. The oceans, as the Baltic Sea, are riddled with different kinds of problems: overfishing, irresponsible shipping practices, physical exploitation, the spreading of invasive species, and the pressures from agriculture and industry. They continue to negatively impact its sensitive environments. Well, these are the problems that we at the Ministry of the Environment are tackling with. And in the administrative sector of our ministry, the Finnish Environment Institute, SYKE, operates its research program for the protection of the Baltic Sea. And I also want to mention one cooperation thinking of the Baltic Sea research at our administrative sector is the cooperation, very important thinking of the Baltic Sea, with the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry. So for the last few years we have had this kind of partnership with the Ministry of the Agriculture and Forestry. So here you have the research institutes underneath the administrations of the Ministry of the Environment and the Ministry of the Agriculture and Forestry. And it's, of course, you can understand the Baltic Sea, we have to have very tight connection and collaboration there with these issues. But then I could tell you shortly what kind of R&D activity related to the Baltic Sea we are doing, or we are steering. We don't have researchers at the ministry. We are steering SYKE, and then we are financing research. So we are not researchers ourselves, but what we are steering at the moment. Well, of course, a lot of our R&D activity is to support the marine strategy. Then we have many projects. We are developing different modeling and evaluation systems. Then, of course, we have emphasis on environmental risk prevention, like including oil spills. Then we have research related to the adaptation to climate change and research related to biodiversity and ecosystem services. And then under our administration, we also have the built environment. And if we think of the connection between the built environment and the Baltic Sea, an example of a project is now that with the Finnish Meteorological Institute and SYKE are together now, we are making estimation of how the sea level will rise. A very concrete project. So where can you build your house in the future? Is it 2 meters? Is it 2.5 meters? Or is it 3 meters? What is the sort of the lowest level where you can build your house if we think what's going to happen with the sea level? And we should have those results actually this year, but very, very concrete. And then to show some pretty pictures, an example of maritime spatial planning, FinMarinet, inventory and planning for the Finnish Marine Natura 2000 network. And as you can see within this project, underwater mapping is conducted. We have bottom topography, substrates and biota are surveyed. And actually just I could relate it to this one new project. We are doing the underwater acoustic soundscape of the Baltic Sea. And this has actually been mapped for the very first time. And then to mention this program to promote the recycling of nutrients and to improve the status of the archipelago sea. This program provides funding for projects. Actually, this program is more maybe this kind of experimental pilot projects that really R&D. But they seek to promote the recycling of nutrients, reduce the Baltic Sea nutrient load, and enhance water protection in agriculture. We are financing very practical projects, as I said. For example, how to better utilize horse meat has been the topic, but now horse manure, how to better utilize the horse manure. So, but what I think we need is very sort of practical piloting, experimental projects, sort of from the research to the practice. And this is why I wanted to show now this program, because I think this is a program that is trying to now provide that kind of pilot projects to get the science into the real life and then, of course, I want to mention the preparation of the Gulf of Finland year 2014. As you can see, here is the SYKE in the middle and the ministry, our ministry there also. So for the first time, Finland, Russia and Estonia are joining forces to carry out a comprehensive survey on the state of the Gulf of Finland, as well as to find ways for citizens and enterprises to contribute in collaboration with the researchers to the health of these maritime environments. And then this is actually a project that I have been working a lot with, is that we have a program that we are trying to modernize the environmental monitoring to make it more modern. And I would say the key objective in this work is to replace the very labor-intensive monitoring with methods of very broad regional scope, covering extensive time periods and making full use of new technologies. As here we can see examples. Here we are using the satellite image data. And actually, I'm sorry, some is in Finnish and some is in English, but these pictures are of water quality. We have the temperatures and chlorophyll, and then some algae on the top, not the bottom, but with the satellites you can see from the top of the water, and turbidity. And why we want to go on with this program, of course, many reasons, but maybe the most important is that these kind of methods will enable the production of the legally required information with fewer resources. And actually, I want to show, because Kingisep was mentioned earlier in the talk, so I'm not going to go into detail into this picture, but just to show you that what we can do with these kind of new technologies. So here we have Luga, different years, and then comparison to reference areas. But there are, if you want to go into detail, but this is just to show an example that what we can do with these new things. Well, then if we think of the future challenges, actually last year with Syke, we were discussing what would be the future challenges. Of course, we have now covered many areas, but what about the future? Blue growth was mentioned, but I could still say also the green growth and Baltic Sea. What we think it would mean, for example, to better evaluate the economic value of ecosystem services of the Baltic Sea, and then advancing different clean tech related to seas. But yes, of course, then the Baltic blue growth that was mentioned. I'm not going to go into detail because we heard very good, very excellent, what does the Baltic blue growth mean? And I agree with the previous talker with this. And I was very happy to see that you have, for example, HELCOM Youth Conference in December on this Baltic blue growth. I think it's very important aspect. And then, of course, the emerging environmental risks. Well, in our sector, the environmental risks have been we have been working a lot with them last year, to do with waters, for example, with mining, with the Talvivaara case, different kind of risks and how to handle them. Thinking of the Baltic Sea, of course, the emerging risks of major spillage of oil or other hazardous substances. But I was very happy. I just saw a press release by Syke and the Finnish border guard that the number of oil spills have reduced by 50% in 6 years. So I think it's nice to, some positive news. We always hear negative news. And that's my hope. You enjoy the seminar and that we can enjoy in the future these, I could say, the recreational ecosystem services this our dear Baltic Sea can provide us. Thank you.